The federal government shutdown may be ending, but federal employees, many businesses and contractors who work with the government have already been personally affected, as you've been hearing. Amna Nawaz hears more about some of that impact and what may linger.
Judy, for 2 weeks now, some 800,000 federal workers have gone without paychecks. They will get back pay, but for many, it's been a tense time with mounting bills and pressures. More than 1 million contractors have been feeling that pressure too. An estimate by Bloomberg found contractors may have collectively lost $200 million a day in lost or delayed revenue, with no guarantees about back pay yet. Let's hear now from a couple of people who are caught up in all of this. Brad Hufford is a grant director employed by FEMA who works in the Denver area, and Lawana Russell is president of Business Management Associates, a human resources firm that contracts with federal government agencies. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Lawana,
us.
I want to start with you now.
Sure.
You mentioned when you spoke to one of my colleagues earlier, when the news came down, the shutdown was over, you said you felt numb. Why was that?
Because I don't know what's going to happen next. This is a 3-week, it's like an interim play. So in 3 weeks, are we going to be able to go longer? Are we going to be back in the same position? There's no telling what's really going to happen. So what do I tell my employees?
And you have about 90 employees, we should point out, right?
Correct.
Have they been
Correct.
asking questions? What are you telling them?
They're asking a lot of questions. They don't know if it's going to continue, if we're going to be without pay again. Should we find another job? Is our contract still going to be viable? There's a lot of questions that they have.
A lot of uncertainty still. Brad, you have gone 2 pay periods without a paycheck.
That's correct.
You told my producer, though, you consider yourself one of the lucky ones. Why is that?
Yeah, I do consider myself lucky. I was able to have an emergency fund and able to pay my mortgage out of my savings.
So there wasn't a terrible financial impact for you. What about for your colleagues? Have they
correct.
shared that they've felt some tension and pressure?
Yeah, so I have an employee of mine who's worked for FEMA for less than a year. He's a lower entry-level employee. And look at that, 2 kids, new house, and it's been terribly impactful on him.
Lawana, when you're talking to your colleagues now, you wrote an op-ed about this, we should say, about the impact this was having on your business. That was 2 weeks ago. You wrote that, and you said that it already had an impact.
Yes.
At this point, do you know what the full impact has been on your business?
I honestly do not, because I don't know which of our employees, we've been talking to them and working with them, but when the government is furloughed, we're furloughed. So those employees that were impacted, they've been furloughed. So have they found other jobs? We've been talking to them, and of course they say, no, we're coming back, we're going to continue work, but on Monday morning, this is like almost panic weekend for us. We're calling everybody, making sure that everything is good. We just don't know, because people have to continue to live.
In other words, you don't know if you'll be able to pick up your business back where it was when you left it off.
Exactly. We've already lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what does that really mean? I haven't even been able to calculate that yet.
And you mentioned that you've also been trying to help some of those employees in the interim. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's humanity, right? Yes, I'm not able to give you your full paycheck, but I can advance you some leave without PTO, which is personal time off. We've sent gift cards, for like American Express gift cards, so they can go anywhere if they need to buy food, if they need to just buy medicine. We've had people who, they're choosing between, do I pay my rent or do I buy medicine for my children? So that gift card will at least enable them to do something and continue their lives in some kind of a fashion.
Paychecks aside, Brad, the actual work that you do, emergency management is of critical importance. Tell me about that. What has been the impact of being furloughed for these last 5 weeks on the work that you left off?
So the day-to-day work, I work as a grants division director. So the grants have not been monitored this time, and that puts us behind for the year in making sure that our grants are being taken care of and that money's being spent as it's intended to be spent.
And in the meantime, are you worried about some of the projects falling by the wayside, about lapses?
Yeah, and we have to look at it. We'll have to, when we get back, make a plan to make sure that we're doing all of the things that we were supposed to do for this year. And then, again, as discussed, we could be in the same boat again in 3 weeks.
So now that you know you will be getting some kind of back pay, do you feel like it was worth it? Is it like it never happened?
I don't believe it's not like it never happened to me. However, I will take the this money to replenish my emergency fund in case we're back in this position again.
And Luana, what about you? Obviously, we don't yet know if there's going to be back pay in some way for contractors. As our Lisa Desjardins reported earlier, it's under consideration. If that happens, would that make you whole? Does that allow you to just move on?
No, not really. Not really, because I think that, when you have individuals who may have already been on some level of a financial crisis, getting the money in a month from when they should have had the money to pay the mortgage on their home may not save their home. You never know what type of situation that an individual is in, and we obviously don't get into that as an employer, but I always think of that in the back of my head. We don't know where someone is, how someone is living, and to not have their pay for 2 whole cycles, that's a big impact. It's a big impact.
Doesn't sound like the announcement today has brought you much relief.
The announcement today has brought me a little relief from the perspective of, from the op-ed. You mentioned the op-ed, and there was, when you do things like that, you get positive and negative feedback. And I received a phone call in my office. Luckily, I wasn't there, but the individual left a message, and he basically said, I don't want my tax dollars spent like this, so I'm kind of glad. And I thought about that, and I said, wow, there's so much uneducation in America, and that people don't understand how government really works and how it impacts them day to day. And maybe this kind of does show people how government truly works, and it impacts you day to day, whether you're sitting in the middle of Washington, D.C. or not. And that there's going to be some level of education and understanding in terms of that day-to-day impact and what you really are using these services for.
Maybe a little bit of understanding out of all of this. Luana Russell, Brad Huffer, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.